All right, and welcome to the another episode of the Political Playbook. I'm Wyatt, and this is my co-host Darren. And today we've got a jam-packed 2-minute drill for you guys. Today we're going to be covering everything from the Sean Diddy Combs trial to the Epstein, Trump Elon beef and how the implications there, and then we're going to wrap it up with the Texas flash flood crisis that's going on right now. So, Darren, go ahead and kick us off, buddy.
All right. So yeah, the Diddy thing has been something that I've been pretty interested in since it started. I've certainly liked the jokes and about the baby oil and all that, and I've liked the conspiracy theories as well. But I'll go ahead. I'll Before I talk about that, let me kind of give a brief summary of where we're at as of now regarding the Diddy trial. So the Diddy trial ended on Wednesday, I believe, July 2nd. So he was convicted of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but he was acquitted of the more serious charges against him, which were racketeering and sex trafficking. A lot of people were upset with this. My thing is, it's obvious that he is like an abuser because that's on videotape. Like it's on videotape of him like beating his partner Cassie Ventura. But I think pretty much everyone like in America right now, they almost think Diddy and they think like rapist or like yeah, like kind of like rapist is like what they think of. But I don't think he's a rapist. And I don't think I don't know to what extent he was extorting people. I kind of have like doubts about that as well, like him extorting people. I think basically his main victim, which was Cassie Ventura, she was basically enjoying these freak offs at the time. I mean, they had text messages of her saying, "Oh yeah, when's the next freak off?" Basically, like I can't wait, stuff like that. To me, I'm thinking, I think justice was served. I think justice was served, and honestly, I kind of hope he gets a little slap on the wrist. I mean, I mean, because ultimately, what did he do wrong? He ordered some prostitutes. That was really it. So, I mean, you shouldn't go around doing that, but that's not really like a serious crime.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying in that terms, but everything that I've read kind of made it seem like the it was a federal prosecutor, right? In Boston?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the
In
federal
fact, it was
prosecutor.
James Comey's daughter, I believe.
And what a small world. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, from my understanding, the federal prosecutor they just bit off more than they could chew, right? So like rather than going at him for like domestic abuse and which I'm not even sure would stick federally, I figure that's mostly a state level charge, right? But they were really, really trying to get him on this racketeering thing, which of course he was found not guilty because I mean, it just seemed a little obvious. I mean, listen. I'm not defending the guy because, to be honest with you, I think this guy is a real piece of trash. All right. Not only does he hit women, but there are enough accusations at this point that there is some coercion involved, right? And I understand the text, and we'll get into that in a second. He's not a good guy, but that's different from being a criminal. You understand? Like that's just
Oh
because you're a
yeah.
bad guy
Yeah.
who's a total degenerate and having a bunch of, I mean, I apologies to the audience, but just total like orgies, like freak offs as they're calling them, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that might all be bad and disgusting to some people, but none of that's really illegal unless there's non-consensual sex involved, or if there's, like you said, prostitution. Which prostitution, like, let's all be real, it's a very minor thing. It's not it's not near the level of like racketeering to the point of like mass.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I just have trouble like again, like what you said, like he's obviously not a good person. Like
Well, yeah, he
this is
did beat
not
this. He
some.
did beat this woman, right? Like that's not
Uh-huh.
even in dispute, right? There's videotape of it.
Oh yeah, and it's one of these things like theoretically I could see maybe like it was an abusive relationship and maybe she's like afraid of him, which I'm sure she probably was to an extent. Maybe she wanted to go along with the freak off. I don't know, so that he wouldn't be mad at her, so the relationship would go well. I don't know, but it's one of these things. It's like there's just no way to get past that in court. It's like how could you be seen as a victim when you're literally like begging for the thing? But yeah, in some ways I almost feel bad for Diddy because
I don't.
a lot of
I don't
people.
one bit.
Well, a lot of people made these like weird conspiracy theories, like, oh, he uh, we're on YouTube, so don't hate me, but he graped Justin Bieber. You know, that was like a thing. You remember that
I
little
do
storyline?
remember. Yeah, I'll be honest
It's
with
like,
you. And for the sorry to cut you off, by the way. I don't really pay attention to many of these like celebrity dish stories, but I can't help but see some of the big ones. So I did see that one.
yeah, well, I mean, I just kind of, in that respect, I mean, I kind of feel a little bad for him in this sense because let's say like you're like some really freakish degenerate like he is, and he definitely likes having a lot of sex. You probably want to keep that private to an extent. I mean, within reason. You don't want the world knowing about your baby oil stash, and in that respect, I do feel for him. And honestly, it's like, what we're gonna put the dude. He's in his 50s, I think. You're gonna put him away for like life for like having orgies. I mean, that just seems ridiculous on its face. Now, maybe he gets a solid, I don't know, 10 years. That seems a bit extreme, honestly. But maybe he gets 5, 10 years. He does have prior charges, prior things against him, I believe. So, there's kind of a pattern of antisocial behavior. I think the world would probably be better if he was removed from society for a little while. But, I don't think he should die in jail by any means. So, yeah, I don't think anything he did really amounts to that. People had this like whole story in mind where that was concocted where he was like some pimp, like who had like all these underlings that were like bringing him girls, and he's just not like he's not an Epstein tier villain. So
Yeah, I mean this what this seemed like to me. I mean, it seemed like the prosecutor was trying to stretch the fact that Diddy would be texting his boys, right? Some of them work directly under him, like officially. Some of them don't. But he was texting his boys like, "Hey, bring girls like to the party. Like we're trying to make sure there's tons of girls at this party, you know." And some of them hired prostitutes, right? And the prosecutors tried to stretch that into he's using his music business to have a prostitution ring and a coercion to like I said, it kind of developed into a land of conspiracy where it's like we're making leaps that aren't necessarily justified. Like if we were to take Occam's razor, it seems more likely that this dude, because there's no blackmail, right? Like there's no that's not even claimed by the prosecution. There's no blackmail, there's no like extreme money draw, there's no nothing. So the coercion would be for what? I guess just power. Okay, if that's the case, why didn't you have more than there was only two witnesses, right? It was this ex-girlfriend and then an anonymous, right? That was it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
it just seemed like a bit of a stretch. And again, not a great guy still, right? I'm not going to say anything good about a man that puts hands on a woman, right? And I know that's white knightish of me, but my God, I mean, if you've seen the clip, it's indefensible, you know? But that doesn't mean he deserves to falsely spend, 150 years in prison.
Oh yeah, certainly, certainly. And I've got to say, this is kind of out of left field, but I almost feel like more interesting than the trial itself and Diddy itself, in terms of like something to discuss and opine on, is kind of like the reaction to the Diddy trial. Like, let me give you an example. Like, I saw this clip from Megyn Kelly, right? And she's like this Republican woman, famous for doing, moderating a Trump debate, basically.
The
But
Rosie O'Donnell one, right?
yeah, I think that was her. And but anyways, I guess for our purposes, all the audience needs to know is she's like this conservative woman, ostensibly, you would assume she would be against cancel culture, against like assuming guilt on a man, like what happened with the Me Too era, where there were some uh, unfortunate men who got caught up in all of that. I believe. Anyways, I saw a clip from her, and she said basically along the lines when the verdict was reached that she just couldn't believe it. She was beside herself. She was just berating Diddy. And I'm like, well, okay, you can feel that way and maybe you have a different interpretation of the trial, but he was found not guilty. And I don't, and we've said it, we don't think, he deserves any super, super harsh punishment for it. But something I was thinking about is how these conservative figures, conservative is really just like 10 years late to the party, because it's been said that conservatives are just where liberals were 5 to 10 years later. Are
Hmm.
conservatives kind of having like a Me Too moment? Like, are they kind of reviving the Me Too era, which the left has pretty much abandoned since they've discovered it's not like politically useful? Like, it's certainly nowhere near as intense. And let me give you another example just to bolster the point, and then you tell me, am
Sure.
I onto something here? Like, okay, so Nancy Mace, right? That crazy
Yes.
congresswoman.
Yep.
So she goes, uh, you know, onto the floor of Congress, and she's saying like, and she's like regaling everyone of how like she's been raped and victimized by her like ex fiance basically, and how like basically she's basically claiming, you know and there's been like a lot of other things like from this woman who I don't know, it's just hard to describe. It's like there's a lot of like sexual undertones with like the things this woman does. uh, you'll see it on like whenever she posts online. It's really off-putting, and like she brought handcuffs as well to the house floor. Like I can't remember what it was for, but she was like, "Oh, and if I'm wrong, I'm paraphrasing because I don't even remember what it was about. But if I'm wrong, then you can put me in these handcuffs and take me away." And with all that being said, I feel like she's almost reviving this Me Too thing because there's another incident where she was like claiming like these transgenders assaulted her in the like bathroom of, I don't know, one of these congressional buildings. So I don't know. And it's
Yeah, I mean,
obviously
listen,
like fake.
listen. It just whenever Republicans, I mean, it's fair to say that they've reclaimed a little bit of their cultural dominance, right? I mean, it's certainly more 50-50 than it was, say, in the Obama era, where this is where we got like the real cancel culture, well, the liberal cancel culture, the Me Too's, the um the other stuff, right? Like the tone police, the free speech, that type of stuff, right? The SJWs, you remember that? Um,
Yeah.
Jesus, what a time to be alive. But yeah, it's no shock that whenever the Republicans come back into cultural dominance, that they're going to assert some of that power. I have no doubt. They think like in our time, like there were several actors, several music groups that got censored as a part of the fact that the conservatives were in the majority in terms of the culture. It just kind of happens. Um, so yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. Now I don't know how that's going to manifest in the year 2025, 2026, but there's, who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's going to take this like almost like right-wing Me Too movement, you know?
Yeah, and that's something I've also been thinking about, where I'm kind of like reinvestigating some prior assumptions. I guess it's like, it because when liberals were going crazy with the cancel culture and the Me Too and all that, was that more of a function of like, the wind was in their sails, they had the cultural dominance at the time, so they just felt like they could inflict that upon people, and now that, so it's not really because they're liberal that they're doing that, it's because they had power, and that
Yeah,
almost
absolutely.
anyone. Yeah, so I guess basically what I'm saying is I don't think the problem is confined to a particular party or left leaning proclivity. I think I guess anyone in power is going to have crazies, and if they're not restrained, they're going to do all this. So, like Nancy Mace, for example.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell you what, dude, if I was Diddy, if I was like Sean Combs, I tell you what, I would immediately go on like Tucker Carlson's show and I would claim that the elites are trying to get him. And I would just totally grift off of this. I mean, could you
Oh
imagine
yeah.
how much money could be made? Because I'm sure there is a demographic, and I don't know, this is not my world to the audience, but I am almost certain that there is a demographic of people that will shell money towards this guy if he says that. Like, they're already like predisposed, I'm sure, to defend him, right? And then if he says stuff that they might, presuppose or already agree with, oh, I mean, just rake in the money, dude. Just rake it in.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's
Well,
good. I'm just saying that it would make him a shitload of money. That's all I'm saying. I think it'd be awful to do, but that he
well,
could do it and it would work.
well, I think you're certainly right. I mean, I think he could probably go on Candace Owens or someone like her
Of course
easily.
he could.
And he would, I mean, she defends Harvey Weinstein, so why not him? I think Diddy has a far more credible case, so why not? Yeah, he could easily grift off this, and he could, I always kind of thought if he got put away for a long time that he could get a pardon from Trump, and honestly, I
You
could
think that's
see
still in the
Trump.
cards?
I think it is because I do think he probably will go away for a few years, probably not a super long time, but a few years, and I think Trump will think it'll be like, I don't know. I think he thinks it'll get him like brownie points with the blacks to like pardon him. So I kind of think he will. Like I think it's like a 50-50 chance that Trump pardons him, honestly.
No, I actually was. I hate that you literally, and I don't know if it's like common discourse or not, but I was actually telling myself, I was like, I bet, because Trump's not above pardoning people that he thinks that it'll like benefit him with, say, like the black community or the black voting population. There's a couple examples. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but I was thinking, I was like, that's
Kodak
who it,
Black.
yeah. I was like, is this possible that he's gonna get pardoned um if like the charges aren't like too bad? And sure enough, I was like, prostitution, Trump probably doesn't even recognize that as a federal crime. So like this is
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
in his wheelhouse.
Well, Trump's done it himself, so
Trump
I
said, dude,
assume.
it's
So
all bullshit, isn't it? It's all bullshit, Diddy. You know?
yeah. And there was a time where him and Diddy were friendly. I think when Trump became president, Diddy did make some remarks, I think, against him. So there were like there was definitely a rift after that. But there was a time, like back in the Apprentice days, where him and Diddy actually got along. So I could see them rekindling their friendship a little, and Donald Trump passing him a pardon for old time's sake. I don't think it's out of the
Well,
question
listen,
in the slightest.
the amount of pardons that Trump is going to give out in December or January of 2028 or 2029 is going to be quite the list, to be completely honest with you. So, why not? Like, no one's going to cry about Diddy, I assure you. You know what I mean? Like, um,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sure. If
Hey,
I
Pam,
could,
could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Obviously, as the audience has seen, if they've been on Twitter the last few days or if they've been living under a rock, Epstein, the famous New York financiers, had a specific island. We all know what the island was used for. I'm on YouTube and Spotify and Rumble, so everyone just calm down. I can't say everything that was on there, but we all know. Okay? Okay, Darren, we know. We know what was on the island. He goes away. He eventually, under the Trump administration in the first term, self-eliminates. Again, I have to use this YouTube language. So he self-eliminates, and under Trump's watch the first time. And then Trump on the campaign trail is like, we're going to release the JFK files. But every time they got to the Epstein files, they were like, are you going to release the Epstein files? And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's a lot of people in the Epstein files. All right. We don't want innocent people to get hurt. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's hilarious. And then his cabinet, right, Darren, is filled with people. Like, for example, Kash Patel. Kash Patel was going on the media circuit from basically January of 2024 all the way till his confirmation, basically saying that, like, I've seen the Epstein files. I know who's in them.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list?
I'll do everything I can to release it to the public. And then as soon as he gets confirmed, he goes on Joe Rogan's podcast and he's like, guys, there's nothing there, guys. I looked at him myself.
I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this. Do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities?
Dan Bongino does the same freaking thing. Dan Bongino's is way worse because he looks nervous. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip of him saying he eliminated himself. He eliminated himself. He looks stressed out. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not pointing fingers here. And, Pam Bondi's the most recent one. All right. So Darren, she claimed that she had the client list on her desk and she was waiting review to make sure she can do it. Okay.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Now, you in the audience are like, Wyatt, this is all old news. We already know all of this. This is all common knowledge. Well, according to, what would this be, last week for you viewers, Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi have decided that the Epstein client list does not exist.
According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
She was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But
And I know what you guys are thinking. How the fuck is that even possible? If you said you had it and you said you've seen it, and now you're saying it doesn't exist, this all can't be true, right? Like none of this is true. So, Darren, I just want to get your take, first of all, on all of this nonsense that has been going on, and then we'll go into like a slightly deeper dive of the Epstein files themselves. Like, what do we think about those? But just like the absurdity right now of what's going on, what is your take?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're lying. I mean, it couldn't
Which
be
time?
any more
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, not to cut you off again.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, well, the client list, it certainly exists or existed. You know, it's totally possible that it no longer exists and was destroyed. You know, I think that's certainly a possibility because I imagine there were very limited copies of the thing. You know, so it's a lie on its face. Honestly, I don't know if this is like if I'm getting too far into it by saying this, but I'll go ahead and just say it. I think certainly some of Trump's friends or Trump himself might be ever so slightly implicated in it. I don't know that Trump is implicated, because if he was, then I feel like the Democrats would have leaked it back when Biden was president.
Oh God.
But also, I don't know, because I feel like a lot of powerful Democrats are probably implicated. I mean, Epstein was on pretty good terms with Bill Clinton as well, you know? So there is that angle. And even if Trump isn't implicated, I mean, like Alan Dershowitz, which is a friend of Trump's, I mean,
His lawyer.
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure he, you know, his name is certainly in the Epstein files, and I remember him defending himself on Fox News about it. I don't know if Trump is like saving his own hide or like saving the hide of someone else, but you know, obviously people who Trump probably does care about are implicated in it. Yeah, I mean, that's just obvious to me.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is obviously implicated here. I mean, you know, we have that leaked clip, right, of Epstein saying that, you know, Trump is his best friend.
So how do you know this? That was close to straight.
Right? He's his best friend, Darren. He's his best friend for years. And for the record, just to be clear, for those of you who just listened to that clip is from before Trump even announced he was running for president. So there's no, like, political motive here. That's, you know, just for the record, right? And then, of course, there's all the videos of him and Trump together, which, you know, by themselves, they're not incriminating, right? They just, you know, hey, they're friends, right? You know, he's friends with the internationally known PDF. It's just very weird, you know? I'm just saying, it's just very weird that Epstein died on his watch. I mean, if you're a sleeper cell, like in a, like, let's say you were watching us right now and you're like a sleeper cell for, like, you know, Ben Shapiro or Crowder, I just want you to just start typing in those comment sections like, hey, didn't Epstein die on Trump's watch? Like, wasn't there that leaked recording? Like, just, you know, spur the conspiracy. You know, that's what I'm pushing. You know what I mean? But I do have one contest with what you said. And I'd love to hash this out for just a little bit. This idea that, well, why didn't if Trump's in there, why would the Democrats not leak it? Right? Like, they tried to throw him in prison. You know what I mean? And there's just one hole with that, and that is, it's very clear that at least some other Democrats are implicated by this. So it's one of those things where if you use this weapon, everybody gets in trouble. So, not Biden. Biden, almost no one claims that Biden's in there. Only the most unhinged, you know, Republicans will even say that. But, you know, like you said, Bill Clinton is in there. Dershowitz is a Democrat. Friend of Trump, but still a Democrat, right? I just don't buy that just simply because Trump was in there that they would release it. That doesn't make Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Also, there is like a foreign intelligence angle. Like a lot of people think that Jeffrey Epstein might have had some ties with the Mossad.
No, just cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
So
Might
maybe there's
have?
like I mean, I think he did, but
Yeah,
like it's all speculation, of course. So, I mean, it's almost like a fact. Yeah, I mean, but I guess I have to preface it with like it might be the case.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore, Darren. I don't know what you're talking. It doesn't.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But anyways, that's also an angle. So it could be like, okay, we don't want to release it and get, the Israelis in trouble, I guess, in terms of public perception, which I think is a factor. I mean, they're obviously not, no administration is willing to push back against the Israelis. So I think that's certainly a part of it. Or it could be. I don't know. On the other hand, though, I do want to say for our viewers out there, I don't know that I would say I could ever see Trump being a PDF file, in the sense I can't see Trump like graping an 8-year-old, but I could see him having intercourse with a 17-year-old, not knowing she was 17, and then Epstein like recording it, or something, and then being like, "Oh yeah, she was 17. I own your ass now." She was not 18. She was 17.
Well, even then, I'd be really shocked if that happened. I mean, just to be like transparent with the audience, Trump has a lot of sins. Many of them being, his inability to have sex with just his wife. But if you look at the women Trump is into, it's pretty much like hot European, adults. It's not it's not like he's Leonardo DiCaprio where he's always dating 21-year-olds, right? So I don't think he's guilty of PDF. I really don't. Genuinely don't. But he is one thing that I will go to the grave on, unless there's just overwhelming evidence to the contrary, is that he is fairly good friends with a guy who has been convicted of basically a PDF prostitution ring, right? Like, I mean, that's what the island was. He was friends with that guy, and not just somewhat, he was close friends with that guy. And that to me is enough. And I don't think it is for his supporters. They're talking a big game right now on Twitter. I assure you they'll just either deny it or they'll just say that, Trump himself wasn't guilty or whatever, right?
Well, I got to disagree with you there. I mean, maybe they were friends and all that, but I don't believe in like guilt by association. I mean Trump, Epstein like made sure to run. Well, he was like a quote unquote wealthy financier, so he ingratiated himself in all these circles. So I mean, there's obviously Trump's met him and probably knew him, and they probably went to parties.
Darren, I'm not
saying him knowing him doesn't make him guilty. I'm just saying there's a chance that that Trump committed some sexual indiscretion. Like, I'm not saying that's not possible.
Darren.
But I'm saying that also that there's no guilt just by being friends with the guy.
Darren, we're not.
There's no guilt by being friends with the guy.
Darren.
The dude, like every celebrity knew the guy. You're gonna say every celebrity's at fault for being friends with the guy?
Not every celebrity said that. Jeffrey Epstein didn't say that he was every celebrity's best friend. He said that he was Donald Trump's best friend, right? And it's not like Jeffrey Epstein was, some dude who committed some minor act once in his life and, he was given a second chance. We're talking about a dude that is second only to like Satan himself and like Heinrich Himmler. Okay? Like, we're talking about like one of the worst human beings in the history of existence, right? I mean, let's tone it down a little bit. If you
Okay,
were
well,
friends with
okay.
that guy, that is a lack of discernment at best.
Trump does display a lack of discernment. I mean, look at his first admin. I mean, he fired everyone. Everybody turned on him. So he certainly has a lack of discernment. And I would say even in his second admin, he has not learned the lessons he should have learned.
Well, even that, I'm
JD
saying the
Vance,
fact that
JD Vance is the
association,
man's vice president. JD Vance is the man's vice president, and you're going to say he doesn't. I mean, he obviously does not have good discernment skills.
Sure.
So I'm saying Epstein could have totally been his friend, and there's a chance Trump didn't do anything.
Right.
Stephen Hawking went to that island. Who is Stephen Hawking graping? Who is Stephen Hawking going to grape?
Yeah, Darren, whenever I think of, Trump's discernment, it goes something like this. Peter Navarro, JD Vance, Steve Bannon, and then, Jeffrey fucking Epstein. Like, are you out of your mind? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not like the other.
There is okay.
Are you psychotic? What is the hell is wrong? What are we even arguing here? If you were Darren, let me ask you this. If you were at a PTA meeting and you were sitting next to a guy and the dude was doing full-on Roman salutes and he was wearing a patch and he was saying, just insert something anti-Semitic, right? Would you be like, oh, well, look, dude, this says nothing about me, Like, you'd be like, dude, I need to get away, this is. Have you lost your mind?
Okay, I'm trying to think of like a different analogy, like
one that doesn't make you seem completely fucking stupid.
Okay, again, not everybody can just be guilty by association. Not everybody can be guilty by association. I mean, I mean, it was a secret PDF file island for a reason. I mean, it couldn't be out in the open. So there's a totally good chance. I mean, if it was out in the open, and people like Trump knew with his big mouth, don't you think somebody would have caught on a little sooner that stuff was going down on that island? I don't know. I don't agree with the whole guilt by association thing, because if Trump is guilty by association, so was Stephen Hawking and all the other people photographed on that island.
Me, big Stephen Hawking defender. Yeah, you really got me on that one. Big Stephen Hawking fan.
Yeah, I'm not some big Stephen Hawking fan, but you can look on its face why it would be ridiculous to assume he was graping anyone, I mean, I think the logistics of it is it's impossible. How could he do that?
What are you even talking about now?
I like Stephen Hawking's
phallus. I get it. I understand that it could be difficult for him given his condition, but you're saying that therefore, if I'm not going to judge Stephen Hawking, why would I judge Trump? Well, it's because Trump, according to Epstein, is his best friend. There is such a difference here. And have you not heard every time that Trump has to talk about Epstein, it's like there's a firearm to his head. It's like he's nervous. He's like, shoot, who knows? And I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Huh.
Well, I will concede that Trump is certainly suspicious on this matter, and I do think that, whether him or people around him would certainly be in hot water if he was on those files, or if those files came out. So I do believe that, but I'm just kind of rejecting your belief that there's like this guilt by association thing, because let me say this, what what if you in your shop building, what if you had like some child like chained to the radiator or whatever? There's no way I'd know about it, because I don't go to your shop building.
Right, right.
But
No, you know what, Darren?
but we do a
What you're,
podcast every week.
what you're saying makes total sense, and I acknowledge Trump has admitted of all wrongdoing.
Well, I'm
Iran was
saying
building nuclear weapons.
Trump
He
wasn't
did
at
not
his
have
island
sex with that.
24/7.
He did not have sex with Stormy Daniels. He's never lied.
That is not what I'm saying. It was
smoked-
on a secluded island. It was on a secluded island. How was Trump to know? How was if Epstein wanted to keep the facts
yeah, how
from
is he
Trump?
supposed to know? It's only his best friend. It's only his best friend.
Oh, okay. So they're at a slumber party and they're playing 21 questions. Oh, what did you do this weekend, Epstein? Oh, I diddled some kids. No, that's not how it would go. It's a clandestine operation where, yeah, you know what? You're trying to get a rise out of me because good and well you're wrong. But yeah, okay. I've stated my case.
I will say this is going to be good fuel for Elon if he can stay energized. This will be good fuel for him. So, to make his case for his party. So,
Yes.
And even if it's not
Elon.
true, just use it anyway. Like.
Oh yeah. Elon did imply that Trump was in the Epstein files. He did recant a little on his tweet. I think he did make a tweet saying that what he said was uncalled for, but
he didn't say it was wrong.
Probably, yeah. I think he does know something.
Jesse Waters' take was just hilarious, by the way.
But a little beef about the big, beautiful bill. Guys can get over that stuff. We call each other pedophiles, but we don't always mean it.
Since you brought up Elon, that it's kind of it's a segue into the next topic. This weekend there was some pretty crazy floods. I guess they started on Friday actually, so not really this weekend, but it ties in with Elon because there were all these Doge cuts at the start of the year, if the viewers remember, and basically the National Weather Service was understaffed, and people speculate that may have led to, or it might have exacerbated the effects of this flash flood that has claimed tens of lives. I think we're near 100, if not over 100 by now. As of this morning, it was more than 80. I think as of the time we're speaking, it's more than 100.
Yes.
More than 100 people have been killed. I was going to say at least 10 children from a Christian camp were still missing, but they've all their dead bodies have been found. More than 24 children have been killed in total. In fact, it's 36 now. So yeah, 36 children were killed in these floods, and the water rose and just to give the viewers an idea of how bad these floods were, the water rose 30 feet in 2 hours, and it was at 4 a.m. in the morning, and so people are getting these flash flood warnings on their phone, and the weather services, they didn't know how bad it would be. So, I mean, if they're like me, you see a flash flood warning, you're like, okay, whatever. And you go back to bed because it just means there's going to be some puddles outside, that
right.
Because, even if you're near a river, if you're far enough upstream, you're not going to think anything of a flash flood. You're going to be like, okay, it's going to be a little wet in the morning, but it's whatever. It's nothing to worry about. But in this case, it really was. I mean, it just swept away buildings, and it was an insane flood. And a lot of the girls they found from this Christian summer camp that got flooded, they found them 12, 20, whatever miles downstream, hanging to a tree or whatever, starving or whatever, And it's just the intensity of these storms really can't be understated. There's just a ton of water in a super short period of time that nobody predicted.
Yeah, it's one of those things where in certain parts of America, it's kind of hard to imagine the disasters of other parts. So, like, obviously, me and Darren, being from Oklahoma, we experience tornadoes constantly, especially in like the early spring to midsummer months. Just Florida experiences hurricanes and really the whole East Coast, right? Flash floods is a bit of a different story. It's kind of fragmented all across the country. Places around, Appalachia, where they basically built cities and valleys, and this is, apparently a very common flash flood area. And I I watched all of this happen over the weekend, this past weekend, and the coverage was pretty insane. It went from, okay, we're going to give a short description of the facts, and then we're going to immediately switch to the blame game, which I'm sure you and I will talk about in a second. But just to cover like the facts, I mean, like you said, this water rose sometimes. Like for example, at that Christian camp, that water rose 30 feet in 90 minutes. There were other parts where it rose. It took all the way up to an hour to 2 hours, right? But the reason that camp was so tragic is that it's in a low spot, basically. And basically all the water rushed down the camp and, basically go take 3 basketball goals, stack them on top of each other, and then imagine in 90 minutes, water goes from sea level to the top of that basket. There is no amount of weather planning that's going to change that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So the only thing that you can do is send out alerts. In this case, and I want to get into this later, but just hold me to that. But there were no sirens. Like, so in Oklahoma, we have tornado sirens. They have wind gauges and all sorts of things that the National Weather Service can sound off. So that way it means like, hey, get to your safe spot. Like, it's a very well taught thing in Oklahoma that whenever you hear the tornado sirens, you get to your safe spot, whether that's a storm shelter, whether that's a bathroom, whatever, right? They didn't have any of that. All they had was the text alert at 4 in the morning. And like Darren said, what would you do if you saw a 4 a.m. text and it said, hey, flash flood warning? You're going to go back to bed, And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Well, just about the like infrastructure thing, like the county they were in, they didn't have this infrastructure because it was proposed in the past to build these alert systems, but nobody wanted to raise taxes to pay for it.
I saw that.
So
yep. They probably still won't, actually. So whenever they proposed that, the first time it got proposed was in like 2015. They had like a bus get washed away, and it ended up killing some kids, unfortunately. And so they were like, all right, this is our wake-up call. And so they tried to pass it through the city through the county, and that didn't work. And they tried to apply for a grant, and that didn't work. So maybe.
Well, they've done interviews with the citizens around there right after this incident, and the consensus is still, I don't know if we're gonna raise tax to get it. I don't know if I'd vote for it or not.
Yeah, still. So, I mean, that's absurd. I mean, Oklahoma, ours was a statewide initiative. So I think Texas, like, for example, and I'm not blaming Greg Abbott. I'm just saying that, like, Greg Abbott should take some initiative here and say that, okay, in the most vulnerable counties, we're going to take some state money. Because that's what we did here in Oklahoma for, several counties. McLean County, Grady County, Oklahoma County. Those were all like state-sponsored tornado technology, wind gauges, sirens, shelters even. They need something like this. It seems. Now at a federal level, they started playing the blame game a little bit. And Darren, you know anything about this or?
Oh yeah. I've been following the blame game. Yeah, I've got some stuff.
Well, give it a go then, comrade. Give your take. Give all the information you want.
Well, like, to give it the rundown, I was reading a New York Times article about it, and basically They're saying staffing shortages as a result of the Doge cuts might have led to this. I mean, there's like some correlation there. I don't know that the Times really made a compelling case, though. Honestly, it seemed like the problems were already there before the Doge cuts. Now, there were some key people who did leave, like, when Trump got in. So there was like a San Antonio office that covered part of the flooded areas, and their warning coordination meteorologist left on April 30th after taking like one of the early retirement packages that the Trump admin used to like cut the number of federal employees. So, there were definitely some key positions that weren't filled because of that. From what I was reading, like, it was already an understaffed agency. But the Doge cut certainly exacerbated it. At the end of the day, I just don't know that I don't know if extra staffing would have prevented this or let them know any earlier. It's really hard to tell looking from the outside in. I mean, it's truly 100-year flood. I mean, this kind of weather event it's so anomalous. I can't imagine that they would have been able to predict it would be this insane. But I could be wrong. I don't know. What's your take? How much is Trump to blame?
I virtually none, to be completely honest with you. And if you were to ask left-wing Twitter or like Kyle Kalinske or somebody else, then you would have thought that the Doge cuts caused the sea levels to rise 31 feet in 90 minutes. It's just unbelievably stupid. And I'm not going to lie to you, it actually deeply frustrates me that in a moment where there's, hundreds of parents looking for kids, looking for grandkids, right? That there are, political opportunists that are using this tragedy, literally standing on the graves of drowned children to make a political point. It is beyond disgusting. And for you lefties who think that, that are going to purity test me and think that maybe I'm not acting right, go look at what I said about the fucking Gavin Newsom fires. All right. I said the same fucking thing. All right. There's nothing worse than in the moment of a tragedy. This is still going on. All right. We're recording on a Monday, folks. This is still going on, right? They're still experiencing flash floods as they're searching through debris, right? And there are people that are still using this as an opportunity to blame Trump. And, Trump, listen, the cuts are bad. The cuts are real bad, okay? But that doesn't mean that that caused the deaths of hundreds of people. Sorry, not hundreds, but you know what I mean, over 100 people. Frankly, I think it's disgusting, and I think that the people who are saying that should be embarrassed, and they should do some real soul searching, because this is an opportunity where we should all come together and just focus on the support. How do we get support to the people that need it? And instead, they're literally fundraising in the Democrat and the DNC on the fact that Trump and Elon Musk cut, staff. Which, again, I want to be very clear. That's bad. Okay, we don't need that, especially whenever you look at FEMA, right? The idea that that's what caused this is it's psychotic. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it's certainly distasteful. And it's, I don't like when people do it from either side. And frankly, I don't think they win any. I don't think it's all that effective either. I mean, how many points are they winning by debasing themselves, going out there saying stuff like that? I can't imagine they're winning that many people to their side. So, yeah, it's a practice that should be left behind for sure.
Now, listen, I'm not even against if you want to investigate like what went wrong here. I mean, that's standard in the government. Basically, something bad goes happen, and then you're like, oh shit, we weren't as prepared. We got to look into it. This is what happened after Katrina. This is what happened at the state level in Oklahoma for several tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, floods in North Carolina. I mean, you name it, Darren. They will investigate and be like, okay, where'd we go wrong? I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that whenever there's literally still searching for missing children because this is such like a brand new tragedy, there are people literally fundraising and clout chasing on the fact that, oh, look, some people died and it might be Trump's fault, so I'm just gonna declare it and move on. Like I can't describe to you how gross I think it is, actually.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a fan of it, and again, like what you said, I think that's a good point. Like, if they want to do an investigation and maybe hold some officials accountable, or even do an investigation and find a direct link between the cuts and and then subsequent stabbing shortages, and then the tragedy itself, then I'm all for maybe some accountability being taken by Elon or whatever in that sense. But yeah, I do think it is just generally distasteful when people use the tragedies to further their own agenda.
Right,
it's
I'm
just not something I'm big on.
And I'm not saying, I mean, there are genuine Democrats that are trying to say, like, look, this is why we need, like, federal, money to go for, like, flash flood, like, sirens and water gauges, and we need to have local. I'm fine with those conversations, but whenever it comes to, like, you're asserting blame now is not productive, like you said. And like you said, it's not even politically effective. That's what I don't get. So, like, all this for what? I guess to just, own MAGA, I guess, like almost like they had it coming, because look at and that just makes it worse, But I fear I am going in circles, so I'm going to give you the floor now.
Yeah, there certainly is a stylistically nasty way that certain people go about it. Some more so than others. I mean, we bring up this guy pretty much all the time in terms of like rage baiters, but I don't know. Did you see that Destiny's tweets about it?
I did not. What did he say? This ought to be good.
Oh, they're pretty bad. It's like it was basically like making fun of like the little girls who died.
Well, whenever I think upstanding citizen and, man of high integrity, you think, Stephen Bonnell, Destiny the Second, right? It just, whew,
yeah.
What a guy. Yeah, I mean, listen, I would, wag the finger and say that he shouldn't do that, but ultimately, like, the dude would not care. Even if he saw this, he would just be like, oh, yeah, F you, I just think it's gross. I saw Kyle Kalinske, basically, the title of his video is that, like, Trump and Elon, I can't say the word, eliminated kids or something. Like, it's their fault, Ryan Grimm was one of the first, because he dropped this article that was like, you were warned that this could happen. And it's like, dude, 90 feet in 30 feet in 90 minutes at 4 a.m. You're out of your fucking mind. That place could have had 40,000 people in Kerr County. It wouldn't matter. You know what I mean?
I don't think staff could have saved them, because if you just think about it logically, what the National Weather Service was doing was they were communicating with the locals and, about stuff that potentially was going to happen. So even if the locals got better information, they send out a text alert at 4 a.m. in the morning? They don't have sirens. How many people are even going to get up and look at their phone,
Right.
So ultimately, I think their fates were basically sealed no matter what. I mean, honestly, we could have had a Kamala presidency and none of the cuts, and I imagine a similar amount of people would have died. Frankly, I mean, they didn't have any kind of siren system or any detection system built up locally. So, if all you're working with is text alerts, then, I don't think, I think the result would have likely been close to the same.